The remains of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani, who died in a US drone strike in Baghdad on Friday, have been returned to Iran. Tens of thousands of mourners crowded the streets of the city of Ahvaz as the vehicle carrying his body made its way through the streets. Amid the grief, chants of "Death to America." General Soleimani was the architect of Iran's military activities across the Middle East, and his influence meant that only the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei outranked him. And these are live pictures of those funeral processions. This is the scene currently in Mashhad. The cortege is continuing to make its way across the country before the funeral on Tuesday itself. And the assassination marked a significant escalation between Iran and the United States. Tehran's leadership has threatened severe revenge. President Trump, who authorized the attack, has warned against any retaliation. Lina Sinjab reports from Beirut.
A sea of mourners across Iran. Thousands are out to bid farewell to a man respected by many at home and feared abroad. Major General Qasem Soleimani's body arrived in Iran early on Sunday morning. 3 days of mourning begins here in Ahvaz before moving to Tehran on Monday, and then the burial in his hometown in Kerman. This is a moment of mobilizing loyalty among Shia communities in the region. Iran vowed to take revenge for the loss of its top commander, a man who shaped the country's presence and influence in the region by force and blood. Iran's response could come at a time and place of its choosing to hit American interests in the region or beyond. Some of its proxy militias in Iraq started reacting. 2 rockets hit American bases in the heavily fortified Green Zone in Baghdad, where anti-ISIS coalition is based. No casualties reported, but that's a sign of warning for the nearly 6,000 American troops in Iraq. Perhaps it's time to leave. Instead, the US is planning to bolster its defenses in the region, sending 3,000 more troops. President Donald Trump warned in a tweet of harsh reaction to any attack on Americans or US assets. He says the US has targeted 52 Iranian sites to strike if any escalation. The world is calling on self-restraint. But the loss is big for Tehran, and the consequences could be severe for the US and adds tensions to an already complex region. Lina Sinjab, BBC News, Beirut.
In the last hour, Iran has announced it's planning to roll back further on the commitments it made when it signed a deal on its nuclear program in 2015. President Trump, of course, pulled out of the deal in 2018, and Iran has been gradually moving away from it since then. Let's take a look now at what one of America's key allies to say. Britain is also a signatory of that deal, and the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, appeared on the BBC on Sunday morning. He called for a de-escalation of tensions while sympathising with the US position.
We understand the action they took, but we also need to be very clearly focused on what happens next. We want to de-escalate the tensions. We want to see a route through this crisis. We do not want to see a major war in the Middle East. The only group or players that would benefit from that would be the terrorists and Daesh. And whilst we totally understand and agree and share the need to contain the nefarious activities, not just of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, but Tehran more generally on the nuclear issue, on destabilising countries throughout the Middle East, the disruption of international shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, we also need to see that there's a route, a door left ajar for a diplomatic solution so that when the leadership in Tehran wake up to their options, they understand that there is a positive route through for them if they're willing to live up to the basic responsibilities that come with being a responsible member of the international community.
Well, we played you a report from our correspondent Lina Sinjab earlier. I caught up with her and asked her how important General Soleimani was to people in the region.
This is a man that is considered as the second top leader in Iran. The assassination is seen as, violation of sovereignty, violation of their pride as well. So the big rallies that we're seeing today are genuine in support of someone who they see as someone who shaped their presence in the region. Of course, there are voices in Iran who oppose
Soleimani. We've seen protests in the past couple of months where he himself ordered the killing of hundreds of protesters who are calling for change inside Iran. But in fact, what we're seeing today is a moment of mobilizing support and loyalty to show the world, especially America, that Iran is still strong and standing together.
You mentioned America there. What is Iran saying to the United States at the moment?
Well, it's been since minute one of the assassination that they're threatening to hit back, to retaliate, and that what they have done is like violation, is a war crime. They even, some of its leaders, they called the Americans as this act as a terrorist act. So the time and the way of Iran's response is hard to tell at the moment. The whole world is interfering and trying to calm down. But it's hard to see Iran not responding for such a huge loss for its country.
Lina Sinjab in Beirut, and you can